Piers Morgan.
Piers Stefan Pughe-Morgan, known professionally as Piers Morgan, is a British journalist, television host and former television talent competition judge currently working in the United States. He is editorial director of First News, a national newspaper for children published in the UK. He began hosting Piers Morgan Live on CNN on January 17, 2011. The show replaced Larry King Live in the 9 p.m. time slot following King's retirement. Piers Morgan Live was cancelled by CNN in February 2014 and aired its final broadcast on March 28, 2014. Morgan is a former judge on America's Got Talent and Britain's Got Talent, as well as a winner of Celebrity Apprentice. In the UK, Morgan worked as a writer and editor for several British tabloids, including The Sun, News of the World and the Daily Mirror. In November 2012, he was heavily criticised in the official findings of the Leveson inquiry, when Lord Leveson stated that comments made in Morgan's testimony about phone hacking were utterly unpersuasive, and clearly prove is that he was aware that it was taking place in the press as a whole and that he was sufficiently unembarrassed by what was criminal behaviour that he was prepared to joke about it. Morgan has written 8 books, including 4 volumes of memoirs.
Early life.
Piers Stefan Pughe-Morgan was born on March 30, 1965 in Newark, East Sussex, England, to Vincent Pughe-Morgan, an Irish-born dentist, originally from County Offaly, and Gabrielle Georgina Sibyl, née Oliver. His father died when Piers was 1-year-old and his mother subsequently remarried. He has 3 older step-siblings. He took his stepfather's surname and became known as Piers Stefan Pughe-Morgan. He attended the independent school Cumnor House from the ages of 7 to 13, and then Chailey School, a comprehensive secondary school in Chailey, near Lewes, East Sussex, followed by Priory School for 6th form. Morgan studied journalism at Harlow College. After a brief career at Lloyd's of London, he joined the Surrey and South London newspaper group in 1985, where he worked as a reporter on the South London News, and the Streatham and Tooting News. Morgan was recruited, he says headhunted by editor Kelvin Mackenzie, to join The Sun, to work on the Bizarre column.
Career. At the Murdoch titles.
Morgan's first major position in national media was as de facto editor of The Sun's show business column, Bizarre, under the editorship of Kelvin Mackenzie. In 1994, aged 29, he was appointed editor of News of the World by Rupert Murdoch, becoming the youngest national newspaper editor in more than half a century. He quickly gained notoriety for his invasive, thrusting style and lack of concern for celebrities' privacy, claiming that they could not manipulate the media to further their own ends without accepting the consequences of a two-way deal. Morgan left this post in 1995 shortly after publishing photographs of Catherine Victoria Lockwood, then wife of Charles, Earl Spencer, leaving an addictive disorders clinic in Surrey. This action ran against the editor's code of conduct, a misdemeanor for which the Press Complaints Commission upheld a complaint against Morgan. Murdoch was reported as having said that the boy went too far, and publicly distanced himself from the story. Fearful of a privacy law if he had not criticised one of his employees, Murdoch is said to have apologised to Morgan in private. The incident was reported to have contributed to Morgan's decision to leave for the Daily Mirror editorship. Morgan's autobiography The Insider states that he left the News of the World of his own choice and somewhat against owner Rupert Murdoch's wishes when he was offered the job of editor at the Daily Mirror.
Daily Mirror editor.
As editor of the Mirror, in 1996 Morgan was forced to apologise on television for the headline, rendered in uppercase, "Achtung Surrender." For Ufritse Euro Championship is over on June 25, 1996, a day before England met Germany in a semi-final of the Euro 96 Football Championships. A picosecond £16 million package of investment in the title was rolled out from January, including the dropping of Daly from the masthead in February, later reversed. Roy Greenslade wrote in August 1999 that Morgan's editorship has made a huge difference, his enormous enthusiasm, determination and focus is a major plus. In 2000, He was the subject of an investigation after Susie Jagger wrote a story in the Daily Telegraph revealing that he had bought Ps 20,000 worth of shares in the computer company Vigeland soon before the Mirror's City Slickers column tipped Vigeland as a good buy. Morgan was found by the Press Complaints Commission to have breached the Code of Conduct on Financial Journalism, but kept his job. The City Slickers columnists, Anil Poirel and James Hipwell, were both found to have committed further breaches of the code, and were sacked before the inquiry concluded. In 2004, further inquiry by the Department of Trade and Industry cleared Morgan from any charges. On December 7, 2005, Poirel and Hipwell were convicted of conspiracy to breach the Financial Services Act. During the trial it emerged that Morgan had bought Ps 67,000 worth of Vigeland shares, emptying his bank account and investing under his wife's name too. In 2002, the Mirror attempted to move mid-market, claiming to eschew the more trivial stories of show business and gossip. Morgan rehired John Pilger, who had been sacked during Robert Maxwell's ownership of the Mirror titles. Morgan was fired as editor of the Daily Mirror with immediate effect on May 14, 2004 after refusing to apologize to Sly Bailey, then head of Trinity Mirror, for authorizing the newspaper's publication of photographs which had been shown to be false. These were alleged to show Iraqi prisoners being abused by British Army soldiers from the Queen's Lancashire Regiment. When, within days the photographs were shown to be crude fakes, under the headline "Sorry we were hoaxed," the Mirror responded that it had fallen victim to a calculated and malicious hoax, and apologized for the publication of the photographs.
Post-Mirror press career.
In May 2005, in partnership with Matthew Freud, he gained ownership of Press Gazette, a media trade publication together with its cash cow, the British Press Awards, in a deal worth Ps 1 million. This ownership was cited as one of the reasons many major newspapers boycotted the 2006 awards. Press Gazette entered administrative receivership toward the end of 2006, before being sold to a trade buyer. On May 4, 2006, Morgan launched First News, a weekly paper aimed at 7 to 14-year-olds. Upon its launch, Morgan claimed that the paper was to be Britain's first national newspaper for children. Morgan was editorial director at First News, responsible for bringing in celebrity involvement. He referred to the role as editorial overlord and frontman. In 2007, Morgan was filmed falling off a Segway, breaking 3 ribs. Simon Cowell and others made much of Morgan's previous comment in 2003, in the Daily Mail, after former U.S. President George W. Bush fell off a Segway, that you'd have to be an idiot to fall off, wouldn't you, Mr. President?
In television.
Morgan's career expanded into television presentation before he was forced to leave the Daily Mirror. In 2003, he presented a 3-part television documentary series for the BBC titled The Importance of Being Famous, about fame and the manner in which celebrities are covered by modern media. He co-hosted his own current affairs interview show on Channel 4 with Amanda Platell, Morgan and Platell. Morgan and Platell were put together because of their opposing political angles. Platell would interrogate guests from the right wing, Morgan from the left wing. The show was dropped after 3 series allegedly because of poor viewing figures, though the chairman of Channel 4, Luke Johnson, was reported not to like the program. Throughout 2006, Morgan appeared as a judge on the American television show America's Got Talent alongside Brandy Norwood and David Hasselhoff on NBC. Morgan was chosen by Simon Cowell as a replacement for himself because of the conditions of his American Idol contract. Morgan appeared as a celebrity contestant on Comic Relief Does The Apprentice in 2007, to raise money for Comic Relief. During filming, he and Alistair Campbell reduced fellow contestant Trinny Woodall to tears when they tried to sabotage her team's event, and were involved in a brawl with her. Upon his team losing, Morgan was selected by Sir Alan Sugar as the contestant to be fired. Also in 2007, he appeared as a judge for the 2nd season of America's Got Talent and also appeared as a judge on Britain's Got Talent on ITV1, alongside Amanda Holden and Simon Cowell. He also presented You Can't Fire Me, I'm Famous on BBC One. In January 2008, Morgan fronted a three-part documentary about sandbanks for ITV1 entitled Piers Morgan on Sandbanks. Morgan was the winner of the US celebrity version of The Apprentice, in 2008. Morgan ended up the overall winner, being named Celebrity Apprentice on March 27, ahead of fellow finalist, American country music star Trace Adkins, and having raised substantially more cash than all the other contestants combined. In May 2008, Morgan signed a 2-year golden handcuffs deal with ITV, reportedly worth $2 million per year. As part of the deal, Morgan would continue as a judge on Britain's Got Talent for at least 2 more series and front a new chat show. He also made some interview specials, plus 3 more documentaries from various countries. Morgan's golden handcuffs deal is the first signing by ITV's new director of television, Peter Fincham. On September 8, 2008, a new series started, The Dark Side of Fame with Piers Morgan, produced by BBC Scotland. Morgan returned to ITV in February 2009, with the series, Piers Morgan On, which saw him visit Dubai, Monte Carlo and Hollywood. The series positioned Morgan as a modern-day Alan Wicker and received strong viewing figures for the channel. The program returned for a second series in 2010 when Morgan visited Las Vegas, Marbella, and Shanghai. In the Shanghai episode, broadcast on June 29, 2010, Morgan consumed foie gras in a restaurant and visited a Tesco store selling live terrapins. Since some people consider both foie gras production and live reptile sales to be cruel, Morgan came under criticism on social networking sites, including Twitter. Any complaints on Twitter about China's animal cruelty record will not be visible in that country, since Twitter itself is banned there, as Morgan pointed out in the same program. In 2009, Morgan's show, Piers Morgan's Life Stories, began on ITV with Sharon Osbourne as the subject of the first episode. Other guests on the program have included Cheryl Tweedy and the then Prime Minister Gordon Brown. On September 8, 2010, CNN announced Morgan would replace Larry King in the network's evening lineup, with his show Piers Morgan Live, beginning January 17, 2011. The program was cancelled in February 2014 and ended its run in March 2014. CNN noted the poor ratings of Piers Morgan Live, which Morgan said was due to being a British guy debating American cultural issues, including guns, which has been very polarizing, and there is no doubt that there are many in the audience who are tired of me banging on about it.
Feuds. Ian Hislop.
Morgan appeared as a guest on the satirical news quiz Have I Got News for You in an episode transmitted on May 24, 1996. In it, show regular Ian Hislop accused Morgan of having him followed and having his house watched. The conflict escalated and at one point the host, Angus Durton, asked if they wished to go outside and have a fight. Later on, guest panelist Clive Anderson confronted Morgan commenting, "The last time I was rude to you, you sent photographers to my doorstep the next day," to which Piers Morgan retorted, "You won't see them this time." The audience responded loudly in favor of Hislop. "We're about to start exposing the moon-faced midget," Morgan was quoted as saying in 2002, to which Hislop responded, "All he's been offering for information about my private life is a picosecond 50 reward. My friends think that's not nearly enough." In 2007, Hislop chose Morgan as one of his pet hates on Room 101. In doing so, Hislop spoke of the history of animosity between himself and Morgan and revealed that after their exchange on Have I Got News for You, which was shown as a clip, Morgan's reporters were tasked with trying to get gossip on Hislop's private life, including phoning acquaintances of Hislop, and photographers were sent in case Hislop did anything untoward or embarrassing while in their presence. Neither the reporters nor the photographers succeeded. Hislop also revealed that Morgan had attempted to quell the feud in an article in the Mail on Sunday, saying, "The war is over. I'm officially calling an end to hostilities, at least from my end. I'm sure it won't stop him carrying on his Piers Morgan stuff." Hislop, who had been engaged in work on a First World War documentary at the time, responded by asking, "Is it an armistice or an unconditional surrender?" Although the show's host Paul Merton agreed to put Morgan into Room 101, He was comically rejected as being too toxic, even for Room 101.
Jeremy Clarkson.
In October 2003, journalist and television personality Jeremy Clarkson reportedly emptied a glass of water over Morgan during the last flight of Concorde. In March 2004, at the British Press Awards, Clarkson punched Morgan 3 times in a clash over the Mirror's coverage of his private life, and accusations that Clarkson did not write for his column in The Sun himself. Morgan reported on a rapprochement with Clarkson in the epilogue of his book, Don't You Know Who I Am?
Alan Sugar.
In December 2010, Morgan had an ongoing Twitter argument with Alan Sugar, which resulted in a competition to see who could attract more followers by Christmas Day. Their arguments on Twitter continued for more than 18 months.
Janet Mock.
On February 4, 2014, transgender advocate Janet Mock appeared as a guest on Piers Morgan Live to discuss her memoir Redefining Realness. After the interview aired, Mock sent a series of tweets criticizing Morgan for describing Mock as being formerly a man. Morgan responded that he had never been treated in such a disgraceful manner by a guest. On February 5, Mock appeared as a guest again to debate the dispute.
Band guests.
A March 2012 report at MTV.com claimed that Morgan has apparently felt slighted over the years by Madonna. He claims he was lied to by the singer's publicist. On March 26, 2012, MTV further reported, Morgan escalated the feud, sending a snippy message to Madonna in which he welcomed her to Twitter while smacking her down once again. Morgan wrote, "Welcome to Twitter at Madonna Day, you're still banned from my show. Love, Piers." Madonna's manager Guy Ozieri released a letter from Morgan's show only 5 months old, explicitly stating, Piers Morgan is delighted to invite Madonna to be a special guest, where she would be welcome to promote her new film and forthcoming album. MTV summarized the result. Morgan then banned Ozieri from all his shows too, due to what he called guilt by association. In its report, the Daily Mail referred to outlandish views towards celebrities, and categorized Morgan's explanations as confusing. In September 2012, it was reported that Morgan had also banned actor Kelsey Grammer. Morgan himself claimed Kelsey Grammer saw a photo of his ex-wife Camille in the Open to Our show and legged it. Schweid reported, all plans were still a go for the segment until Grammer actually got in the hot seat and saw the footage the producers had planned to peg to the segment, including a picture of his ex-wife. On September 26, 2012, Fox 11 Los Angeles reported, many say was an ambush by Piers. The Huffington Post reported, before the interview was scheduled, it was made clear that Grammer would answer all questions, including those about. His sole request was not to show any images of her. Keeping it classy, Grammer doesn't seem at all concerned that he won't be welcomed back to Morgan's show, which has been struggling in the ratings on CNN. Morgan also has banned actor Hugh Grant, denigrating Grant on Twitter in May 2011. Hugh Grant is now banned, in perpetuity, from At Piers Tonight ND Anything Else I Ever Do. Tedious little man.
Phone hacking allegations.
During Morgan's tenure as editor, the Daily Mirror was advised by Stephen Knott that voicemail interception was possible by means of a standard PIN code. Despite staff initially expressing enthusiasm for the story, it did not appear in the paper, although it did subsequently feature in a South Wales Argus article and on BBC Radio 5 Live in October 1999. On July 18, 2011, Knott was visited by officers of Operation Wheating. Morgan described in a 2006 article written for the Daily Mail how he had heard tapes of messages that Paul McCartney had left for his wife, Heather Mills, on her mobile phone. Morgan wrote that stories soon emerged that the marriage was in trouble. At one stage I was played a tape of a message Paul had left for Heather on her mobile phone. It was heartbreaking. The couple had clearly had a tiff, Heather had fled to India, and Paul was pleading with her to come back. He sounded lonely, miserable and desperate, and even sang "We Can Work It Out" into the answer phone. He came under criticism for his boasting about phone hacking from Conservative MP Louise Mensch, who has since apologized for these accusations. In July 2011, in a sequence of articles, the political blogger Paul Staines alleged that Morgan published a story while knowing it to have been obtained by phone hacking while editor of the Daily Mirror in 2002 concerning the affair of Sven-Göran Eriksson and Ulrika Jonsson. On December 20, 2011, Morgan was a witness by satellite link from the United States at the Leveson inquiry. While he did not believe to the best of my recollection that phone hacking had occurred at the Mirror, he admitted to listening to the voicemail left by Paul McCartney for Heather Mills, but refused to discuss where he was played that tape or who played it. It would compromise a source. Appearing as a witness at the same inquiry on February 9, 2012, Mills was asked under oath if she had ever made a recording of Paul McCartney's phone calls or answer phone messages and had ever played it to Piers Morgan or anybody else. She replied, "Never." Mills told the inquiry that Morgan was a man that has written nothing but awful things about me for years and would have relished telling the inquiry if I had played a personal voicemail message to him. On May 23, 2012, Newsnight presenter Jeremy Paxman was a witness at the Leveson inquiry. He recalled a lunch with the Mirror editor in September 2002 at which Morgan outlined the means of hacking into a mobile phone. On November 28, 2012, the Channel 4 documentary Taking on the Tabloids, fronted by actor and phone hacking victim Hugh Grant, showed footage from a 2003 interview with Morgan by the singer and phone hacking victim Charlotte Church, during which he explained to her how to avoid answer phone messages being listened to by journalists. He said, "You can access voicemails by typing in a number. Now, are you really telling me that journalists aren't going to do that?" The following day, November 29, 2012, the official findings of the Leveson inquiry were released, in which Lord Justice Leveson said Morgan's testimony under oath on phone hacking was utterly unpersuasive. This was not, in any sense at all, a convincing answer, and, what it does, however, clearly prove is that he was aware that it was taking place in the press as a whole and that he was sufficiently unembarrassed by what was criminal behavior that he was prepared to joke about it. On December 6, 2013, Morgan was interviewed, under caution, by police officers from Operation Wheating investigating phone hacking allegations at Mirror Group newspapers during his tenure as editor.
Personal life.
Morgan married Marion Shallow in 1991 in Hampshire. They have 3 sons. Morgan and Shallow divorced in 2008. He remarried, to Celia Walden, a newspaper columnist and feature writer, and the daughter of the former Conservative MP George Walden. Morgan and Walden married in June 2010. On November 25, 2011, the Mail Online reported that Walden gave birth at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Beverly Hills. Morgan is a lifelong fan of cricket. Corresponding with Donald Bradman as a child, and being a promising early youthful fast bowler, he has played for his local side in Newark since 1978. Every year since 2000 he has organised a game between a Morgan family team and the Newark side, which includes a famous ringer. 2008's ringer was then England batsman Kevin Peterson. Morgan described the 2008 game as the best day of my life. Morgan is a fan of Arsenal FC.
Books.
Morgan, Piers. John Sachs, 1991. Secret Lives. Blake. ISBN 0-905846-95-8. Site uses deprecated parameters. Help. Morgan, Piers. John Sachs, 1991. Private Lives of the Stars. Angus and Robertson. ISBN 0-207-16941-1. Site uses deprecated parameters. Help. Morgan, Piers, 1992. To Dream a Dream, Amazing Life of Philip Schofield. Blake. ISBN 1-85782-006-1. Morgan, Piers, 1993. Take That Our Story. Boxtree. ISBN 1-85823-839-6. Morgan, Piers, 1994. Take That on the Road. Boxtree. ISBN 1-85283-396-3, Morgan, Piers, 2004. Va Va Voom. A Year with Arsenal 2003-04. Methuen. ISBN 0-413-77451-1, Morgan, Piers, 2005. The Insider, The Private Diaries of a Scandalous Decade. Ebury Press. ISBN 0-09-190849-3, Morgan, Piers, 2007. Don't You Know Who I Am? Ebury Press, Morgan, Piers, 2009. God Bless America, Misadventures of a Big Mouth Brit. Ebury Press. ISBN 978-0-09-191393-9, Morgan, Piers, 2013. Shooting Straight, Guns, Gays, God, and George Clooney. Gallery Books. ISBN 978-1-4767-4505-3.